We'll be taking a look at judicial reform, decision, spirit of decision being taken by the judicial system. There is also led to pockets of protest here and there. But joining us this morning to just take a look at that is other person, is a frontline politician and also the proper presidential candidate of AAC, talking about Omoyele Sowore. It's a pleasure having you this morning.
Thank you for
our co-presenter Charity will surely be taking you for the next few minutes on issues concerning some of the has been happening, some of the things that have been happening. Let's start with some of the increase in the number of court cases by legislators. What do you make of this?
Well, you know, my position is that if you don't organize elections, then it's courts to decide the outcome of election. Those are not the kind of things we should be having in 2023 in this country. You go to the US, they have humongous elections. They have almost 2 elections. Every 2 years, there are elections. First is the general election, and then there's the off-season elections. And you never have court cases. You go to India, that has over 1.7 billion population of persons. They hold elections, and by 4 p.m., the election results are, I don't hear of court cases. You go to several other countries in the world. It is only here that we've spent billions to organize elections, and then we end up in a court of 1 person, 2 persons to determine the winner of the election. And that is not democracy. It is not.
Okay, so do you think it is because you said when we don't organize a fair election, we get court cases?
Yes.
What do you think is the quest by politicians to want to be in a position even when they know that they don't want?
Well, nobody will go to court, in my view, if the elections are transparent. You go to Brazil, they hold elections in such a way that they are so digital. As the numbers are coming in, you see them on the screen, right from when the last in. So there is not that will go to court when they know that the election is getting is accurate. Most of them will not. I'm not only genius politicians. There are people who will go and sue God. You understand? Just because they have a lawyer and they know there are judges who will litigate those things. But in our own case, the problem is free and fair elections. We must admit that we are not having credible elections, and that leads politicians, as you call them, to go to courts using lawyers. And as you know, in Nigeria, if you go to court, you need 2 sets of lawyers: the one that knows the judges and the one that knows a little bit of law.
Interesting, right there. But looking at you, after the election, challenging this decision.
I said it immediately after the election that there was no election and there's nothing to challenge. And I know that if I have money that I could spend on lawyers, I'd rather give it out as scholarships to students who are struggling to pay their school fees.
Okay, why?
Because I know that the election results have been rigged, and the judges who are going to approve them have also been put in place. I said it on March 3rd, that it's a waste of time to go to court. It's a complete waste of time. See, this is a country that has been litigating elections since, as far as I was conscious, which was 1979. When, I think it was 79 or 1983 that they did the 12th to 3rd. Somebody won the election, they figured out a mathematical calculation to rig the man out of Bafemi Awolowo. We had an election in this country in which a guy won in 1993. They found a court, judges to say that the election should not hold. When the election held, said the elections were not credible. There was the Yar'Adua election, I think 2007, in which there were no serial numbers on the ballot papers, and they just won. So it has never happened in the history of Nigeria that judges nullified a presidential election. So there's no way a president is coming. I know these things, not because I contested, also because I had been somehow a reporter who had reported on the back end in litigation, election litigation. But it's good for judges and lawyers. This is their period of harvest. Yeah.
I don't think it's also an issue.
How is it an issue? Tell me.
We are over 200 million.
We are 200 million.
And no proper data system in place.
We actually, you see, we have what I call data abuse. And there's so much data. It's just that they are not centralized. There are counted places where data is collected. biological data. And it starts from road safety, driving, INEC collects, banks collect, the immigration people collect, universities collect, everybody collects your data in this country. And there's no central data pool. That's true, but that's not the problem. It's easy. For instance, INEC has accurately 82 million voters. There you can verify every data because we all have a card that has a chip in it. The problem is not the data. The problem is the processing of data. This again happens. We have already gone digital at the level of INEC. They say results from the polling units to a central viewing center online. What is wrong with that? We have already paid for it. We have already arranged, we've announced it to everybody. But INEC is interested in organizing free and fair elections. So they figured out a way to bypass shouting before the election. That INEC was prepared because I've been running websites and I stress tested their own website on my own and discovered that even if they did not manipulate the website has no capacity to handle the number of connections.
Okay, that means you knew before the election.
And I announced it. I went to the National Assembly. I talked about it. I talked about it on TV. Until even before so, and everybody was, of course, that is why they asked you to go to court because they are the ones who want.
Do you think there are fellow politicians who also contested them? I'm not aware of this formation, or just like, okay, let's just do it.
That's why I don't like to be called a politician. Who are called politicians?
But you are a politician.
Well, I participate in politics. I see myself more as a political. I know when people call you politicians in Nigeria, they're good at saying, Mr. Thief, you are a dishonest person. That's the meaning, that's the practical meaning of politicians in Nigeria. What I'm saying is that you can't trust the politicians that even in going to court, they don't have their own arrangements to douse tension. I think those who went to court, they knew that the courts are going to somehow arrive at it.
When you look at the antecedent.
Yes, because they have all gone to court before. And most of them are also the part of it manipulate the courts.
Before.
So they know the courts. But they need a set of young people in the country who are restless. And they needed to calm them down by saying, we are going to court. Sorry. You know what we're about to get them. Eyes on the judiciary. They knew that you can't see the judiciary in Nigeria, no matter how sharp your eyes are.
No, from what you going back history, down history lane, we can rightly say that there has never been, according to what there has never been a credible election, because for every election there
was
issues.
A credible election.
There was the one in 1993 that was adjudged till today, free and fair.
Yes.
But now it was annulled. So how did we that even in 2020 we're still struggling with lack of free, fair, and credible election?
It is that nobody who should lie otherwise. I've started hearing like 2 days ago, and some people saying, "Oh, maybe we should adopt another style of democracy." You get my point? That's not the problem. It is the operation of democracy that is the problem. Democracy is compared to
forms of government.
Because we actually have other forms of government in this country. We have theocracy in some places. We have a religious traditional system in some places. The question you should ask is that, are they fair? So democracy is the one that gives you some measure of control over how to decide who should rule you. That's why democracy is popular, I think, globally. But I'm not saying that the problem is not, what I'm saying is that the problem is not democracy, even though it's expensive. The problem is the operation. And different types of and variants of democracy. The one we do in Nigeria is what I call when morons hijack your democratic process.
This is a new word.
Yes. It's not new. It's
a word coined by you.
That is why I said it's a new word.
Yes.
For me, it is.
Yes.
But my worry has to do with the fact that they said the military coup is no longer a threat to democracy, but rather democratic creation by president and also hegemonic aspiration. Do you agree with this?
No, I do not want anybody to discuss easiest way to we saw military investing in university in the 90s. We were the ones who helped push out the military.
Sure.
And the military that can go and shoot you at Lekki toll gates without beating an eye, is that the people you want to lead you? And at any rate, there's no difference between the civilians and the military. There's no election rigged successfully in this country. This is our military. They are the chief riggers of elections. In addition to police, in addition to DSS, no, it's this. I'm not saying
you don't have that in fact.
I have the facts. This is not the first place I've said it. I've had meetings before I said it, and they just laugh over it wherever you have come again. There's in this election, the most difficult places were military. Are you getting my point?
Yeah.
So already we have a diarchy in the country. The military is part and parcel of our daily lives. In some cities and villages in this country, the military are the police. Military are even doing traffic work. In Nigeria, they help you pass vehicles. So the military, yes, the military is in your lives. What I'm saying is that nobody should come and be disturbed in front of me. You know, military will take you back to even the worst situation. What is for all of us who are cheated to rise up against the system and settle it once and for all. And that is world revolution that all of you always have said.
But we know revolution does not solve our problems. We've seen cases.
We have never tried.
We've seen cases. We had in 1993 what we call
the revolution election.
But we were able to force this, able to do what is right.
That was a revolution. What happened in 1993 that was terrible was a fail because if the revolution had happened, Abiola would have become president, not die in detention.
Okay, now, during the off-cycle election,
Yeah.
the Imo, Bayelsa, and Kogi state election, the former president, Goodluck Jonathan, talked about, it is to stop off-cycle election. What do you have to say
There's
to
nothing
that?
wrong with elections. There will always be off-cycle elections because, according to the constitution, if anybody dies in office, an election has to take place, called by-election. So in this case, it's just 3 major elections. It shouldn't be a problem. In fact, what other democracies do around the world is to use off-cycle elections to test run their electoral machines and processes. So there's nothing wrong with off-cycle election. Again, it is the off-cycle mentality that's the problem. Off and on-cycle mentality of rigging elections. That's the problem.
You just don't believe that
if I'm wrong, it will be the first time. If I'm wrong, this will be the first time I'm wrong on democracy and political issues in Nigeria, and that would be fine. You know, my assessment is that there was also no election.
The last off-cycle election?
Of course.
Why is that?
Oh man, did you not hear about Kogi election? They were just writing figures. You know, like fella used to say, people no go vote, so get big numbers. I'm sorry to say this, in the Niger Delta region, they don't even pretend anymore about it. That enters the creeks. What is coming back has already been predetermined. And I'm saying this because I grew up in the creeks. You know, I'm from the Niger Delta region.
Yeah.
So that's our creeks area. It's very difficult to do elections in those places because Mami Water will just hijack.
As in the real Mami Water.
I'm telling you, people who are from there understand what I'm saying.
But looking at what from your experience,
Yes.
from what we gathered,
Yes.
let's talk about the centralization of power. The president. Do you think there's too much power embedded in the presidency?
Yes, that has been over discussed.
How we now decentralize
power.
Yeah.
But it's not only it needs to be decentralized to every level. In fact, the biggest problem right now is the government who don't allow local government elections to hold or local government allocations. If the federal government, the president, the allocation to states, and now start calling government, let me give you some. So that decentralization needs to happen. In fact, if we practice it as it is designed now, it will be fine. Because it means every local government can actually take care of local issues. Because I guarantee you, those is getting his due. I can hold local government chairman responsible for schools and small roads here and there healthcare centers, primary healthcare. But now, how can we do that when when the local government chairman, one, is not elected. Secondly, even the ones that are elected, their allocations are hijacked by the state government. So decentralization needs to happen, but it must happen the way it is designed first. Let the local governments breathe.
Well, we have so many presidents who have President Muhammadu Buhari who said it's open allocation government. But how did they get back to the
I said you 3 days ago that he was just running a free for all government. There's a difference between what he said within this regime. That's why you need real who can implement this. He didn't know what was happening. He confessed 3 days ago. I don't know whether you heard about the interview. Yeah. That his problem was that he was running a free for all government. We were saying it at that time. He said, no, you don't want the man to complete his tenure. The man had no idea. He had no clue how the country was being run. That's the truth. So we cannot be using Buhari as a yardstick for measuring success of people in government. He was a total failure, and he has admitted it. What else do you want him to do?
So where do we go looking at it? Because going back to the issue about centralization and also decentralization of power, we know the judiciary has always been under one way or the other the federal government, and it's difficult. How do we first give the judiciary a breathing space to be able to ensure?
The judiciary has a breathing space because they don't even have it right now within the budgets where they don't have to wait for the executive to be anymore.
Okay.
But it's not a matter of concepts, it's a matter of personnel and ideology that the judiciary in Nigeria doesn't see itself as an independent body. Nobody can kill that. And it's because they structured it that way. Look, in Abuja, I think 2 years ago, I was there. All the new judges, 62 of them, were either children of old judges or their relatives. How are you going to get justice in that kind of system?
So what is your take on a 6-year term presidency?
The problem is not the number of years people spend in the presidency.
Sure?
I prefer the 4 years.
Yeah.
Because anybody that knows he has 1 6-year term will do the worst in this country. But let it be that in 4 years, we can check whether you are, competent or eligible to continue in government based on your performance. If someone knows he has 1 6-year term, he can go to sleep. You understand? So, but if you know in 4 years you have to contest for office, probably you'll be a little more concerned about getting a second term. 6 years is good. I would rather for a 1 year term.
Okay.
You understand that as many people as possible can be president. So tell you it's not enough, but if I'm president of Nigeria for 4 years, whatever I can achieve, I probably can achieve in a year. Because that's our experience. But 6 years, my goodness, And if you put in power for 6 years, within that 6 years they will change the constitution to
add another 6 years.
Yes.
just like they had
once they
in
get
places
into
like
power for the first 4 years, the next thing they'll start planning for the next election.
The guys are there now. They're already planning their second term.
So
they're already planning their second term. If you know about what they are planning, they're no longer talking about this 4 years. They're already planning their second term.
So the kind of people we have running our system right now, and the kind of youth we are nurturing, are they not danger to democracy?
Everything is a danger to everything in this country. That's the truth. But it has nothing to do with youth. So the country are the offspring of the generation. Yeah. The only problem I have with youth is that they think they'll be youth forever. So this generation, this and that. Before you know it, you're generation years old. And you no longer be able to call your generation anything useless. So, and that's when there's too much consumption of superficiality. So you see it's intellectualism that drives movement.
Yeah.
In our country, it's comedy. I'm not saying Lucinda. I love it. My favorite comedy is Lucinda. But a country that completely and totally depends on superficiality, fluff, not to make that much progress. People that need to be driven by professors are driven by comedy or musicians and all that. And you see that other countries where there's progress, it's always a mix. course, the U.S. has a very robust Nollywood, Hollywood there. We also have universities. We have Nobel Prize winners. We have economists, And when you come on TV, you don't see 24 hours of religious programs. You see intellectualism. You see university students. In fact, when presidential elections are held in the U.S., one of the debates must have vested around. Nobody even shows up for the debates. Yeah.
What I'd like to ask you is that you are one person who have run for presidency. Twice you've run for presidency, and I would like to ask, what are the lessons that you've learned in this your journey?
There's nothing to learn.
There should be something.
I'm telling you, because
so if you are going to
the political system here are like Bourbons, Bourbons are the people who were swept up by the French Revolution.
Yeah.
1789, if I'm correct. And there's something that's popular about what they say about them. So they learn nothing and they forget nothing. Yes.
So if you're to advise a younger person going into...
If I'm advising a young person,
what would you tell the
say
person?
to him, don't do this except you are very sure that they're trying to win an election. That's why I preach that we should have a revolution first before the next election. And people used to ridicule me about it. Now everybody has agreed with me.
But when you look at our language, I think dynamic, it's always the challenge for us.
They just throw that at us. Oh, well, we have ethnic differences, we have religious differences.
You think we don't have those?
We do, but they're not enough to make
Is it possible with the way things are presently are right now? Yeah. Is it possible to have a united country where people like we had the way back in 1993?
Absolutely, it is completely possible because the objective conditions that makes people come together, they are hunger, starvation, lack of opportunities, unemployment. Those things happen to everybody, regardless of their tribe, their religion, orientation. So they are there. It's only that the political class have mastered how to divide us, and some of us also fall into that categorization. No, but if you are from Benin, are you safe from accidents on the bad road? If you have tackled, does it make you more human? When you don't have employment, is the minimum wage not national? Is there a minimum wage for that's different from Yorubas or Hausas? No. Is bad governance in the country not national? See, the issue is that, look, the way to solve this, because I have to run, are the politicians themselves. Why are they not divided? When it comes to sharing the nationality, there's no Hausa, there's no Yoruba. When they enter this Abuja, they are united. So why can't the cheated also be united? Forget about their differences.
Before we let you, you have run office twice. Yes. Will you still be running again in 2027?
I'm not going to stop running.
So what purpose then? If you insisted?
No, I've not said I'm running for office.
Okay.
I'm stop running for what's necessary.
Okay.
And what can liberate people.
Okay.
And that run is something that has never stopped. I'm probably presidential candidates that don't go into after elections.
Okay.
The rest of them, some have gone to Dubai, some are doing other things. But I'm around and we keep fighting the battle. And those of brothers and sisters in Benin, whatever you have coverage, who are listening to, they understand this very well. And those who are being distracted, they're all of us now because we are realizing some of the mistakes we made in 2020. A situation of ships leading lives.
So you're sure that come 2027, this mistake?
I'm not waiting for 2027. We're waiting. The urgency of now is what is important. I mean, what's the guarantee that you have that we can wobble our way through to 2027 like this?
But looking at it, at a point in time before the election, there was so much talk about Peter Obi and everything. But you share the different ideology. Do you think the ideology he had going to be before the election could have saved Nigeria? Or do you believe it's the same desire?
It's part of, whatever there's going to be a revolution, there will first of all be confusion. How can you talk about that the person was part of PDP, was governor for 8 years? I mean,
is that an issue?
Is an number where he governed for 8 years? No, tell me, can any one of you go and spend your next vacation in Anambra based on the fact that I was come to Dubai for 8 years? Why are we just deceiving ourselves? You know, that's part of the problem of ideology. You cannot have an ideology that is diluted. Ideology has to be real. It has to have person, it has to have purpose. If all those things are not there, it's deceit. Anybody can package anybody and say that is the best. And it will work in Nigeria because of the superficiality, I'm telling you. Yeah. Just package somebody, ask comedians to join, musicians to join, even intellectuals. When you now put, churches in it or religion in it, you have captured Nigeria.
But do you think you're the best?
There's no question about it.
You package yourself to be the best.
I'm not packaging. This is me. I'm real. That's the reason why I can drive here and come and attend to a TV interview without having been sent the question and answer.
Wow.
Yes. Most of these presidential candidates, you have to send them question and answer before they can come. You have to say that this way will behave. It's like signing a prenup before you can get them to interview with you. So,
it's been nice talking to you right there, talking about what we call a politician. You have to come up with a politician. Better on that AC the last 2 elections right here. And he said he was not going to stop running because he believed there are so many things that his ideologies are quite different from the normal decisions that you see all over the place. But hopefully we'll see how things will pan out that day. But I must say this. I know I want him to go because he has a court case to attend to right there. But I must say this. He should mention it, the system of government we get. But looking at it, when I talked about the amount of power in presidency, and we see what is happening in UK with the parliamentary system of government. When they institute laws or policies that are not working, you see the quite quick change in system of government. We have once had it. Okay, it's not even if you try to Nigeria.
If you bring a parliamentary system to Nigeria today, the world will reject the parliamentary system. Even the UK will say, no, this is not the one.
Part of the UK.
The easiest way to wrap this off is take Nigerian politicians to New York City. In 6 months, there will not be any train running. They will have electricity.
Everything will be grounded.
Yes.
That choice word coming from a frontline politician like that. Okay, let me use this word. Political activist.
But he's a practicing politician.
He's a political right there.
Whatever suits you.
I want to say big thank you to you for joining us this morning out of your busy time to be part of this.